Hi and welcome to this video update on the latest legal changes in England and Wales. My name is James Wood, the NRLA's policy manager, and today I'll be speaking to you about minimum notice periods for Section 21 and Section 8. So over the course of the last year, the required notice periods for Section 21 and Section 8 have changed a number of times as a result of the pandemic. Between March and September of 2020, if you were serving a Section 21 or a Section 8 notice, then you had to give a minimum of 3 months notice in all cases, regardless of which notice you served. Then between October 2020 and May 2021, this was extended further so that landlords had to give a minimum of 6 months notice in most cases. And in all cases of Section 21s. The NRLA did manage to secure some shorter notice periods here for use where a landlord was serving a Section 8 notice and they were citing antisocial behaviour grounds or rent arrears grounds. However, most notices stayed at 6 months. Then from June of 2021, as the pandemic started to loosen its grip a little bit, most notices began to taper down, and most notices became 4 months minimum. So it was 4 months for Section 21 and 4 months for most Section 8 grounds. Though once again, the NRLA was lobbying hard to secure some shorter notice periods, including things like rent arrears, antisocial behaviour, right to rent breaches, etc. But in some good news for landlords, from the 1st of October, we're going back down again. And this time we're going back down to our pre-pandemic norms. So as of the 1st of October this year, if you serve a notice and in England and you are serving a Section 21 notice, then the landlord will have to give a minimum of 2 months notice to their tenants, which is half the length it is at the time of recording. So it's a nice change for landlords. And for Section 8 notices, we're back to our pre-pandemic requirements as well, though this is slightly more complex as the ground or combination of grounds you cite on the notice does change the length of notice you're required to give. So you also have to be aware of the fact that the combination of grounds operates on a sort of tier or hierarchy system. I like to think of it as a pyramid, as you can probably tell from this infographic. And specific grounds take precedence over other ones. So what that means is if you're serving a Section 8 notice and you include ground 7A, you are including the highest priority ground. So if that is included on your notice, then the notice is always going to be a minimum of 1 calendar month. Alternatively, if you're serving ground 14, which is the other antisocial behaviour ground, and you aren't including ground 7A, then this ground takes priority over all other grounds. And that means that the notice will count as served on the tenant about pretty much the day after, usually the next working day, and you can apply to court on that day. Now, most Section 8 notices won't include either of these two grounds, however, as antisocial behaviour is difficult to prove, and you are really strongly advised to seek legal advice before including them on any applications to court or on any notice periods, any notices that you serve. So the more common grounds are the grounds that require 2 months notice and can't expire in a fixed term. There's quite a few of these, but the most common one for landlords to use is ground 1, which is the one that states that the landlord may move into the property to live in it for themselves, or they have lived in it previously and they just want it back. Alternatively, there's also ground 2, where your mortgage lender is seeking to repossess the property from you. And as I say, these work a lot like Section 21 notices in that they're a minimum of 2 months notice, and you can't ask for possession before the fixed term expires. But right at the bottom of the pyramid is the one that landlords are going to use the most often. And these are the 2-week notice grounds. And these grounds can be used to end a tenancy during the fixed term. And they're 2 weeks long, making them extremely efficient at getting you to apply to court. And they include the rent arrears grounds 8, 10 and 11. So as of the 1st of October, if your tenant is in rent arrears of 2 months or more, your minimum notice period is 2 weeks, regardless of the amount of arrears that are involved. And these notices, I say, they take priority over each other. So the 2-week ones are right at the bottom of the pyramid. So my recommendation to you is don't include any other grounds if you are going to court for rent arrears and you've got evidence of the rent arrears. Then don't include any other grounds. Just have grounds 8, 10, and 11 as you'll have a short enough notice period, and it doesn't lead to you accidentally requiring a 2-month notice period instead. So that's how the hierarchy works for Section 8 in England from the 1st of October. I should also say that there'll be new prescribed forms available on the government's website. These have already been written. And they must be used for any notice served on or after the 1st of October. So do make sure you're downloading the latest version from the Assured Tenancies form page on gov.uk and download our latest completion notes, which will also be available on the same day to help you fill it out. For landlords in Wales, unfortunately, it's less. There's been less change. In fact, there's been no change. And the Welsh Government has announced that longer notice periods are going to be in place until December 31st, 2021, at least. And in Wales, the situation is that Section 21 notices and every single Section 8 ground, with the exception of the 2 antisocial behaviour grounds, ground 7A, ground 14, require a minimum of 6 months notice. What I would recommend here really is that landlords make sure their tenants are aware of the tenancy hardship grant that the Welsh Government has introduced, particularly in cases of serious rent arrears, as they can then work together to sustain the tenancy and try and work together to get the grant paid to the landlord to pay off any arrears that may be the root cause of the notice in the first place. But as I say, the alternative is waiting 6 months for a notice to expire, so it is quite a long wait for landlords in Wales, unfortunately. But that's the latest legal update. Thank you for listening, and we will of course have full information on notices and resources, etc., available in our resources section for members to download or just read. So thank you very much.